The worst game I can't stop playing. 447 hours on record. Not recommended. Uh-oh. Here we go.
Tower of Fantasy is a gambling simulator with a video game attached to it. In this
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
title, you play as the Wanderer, no, not that one, who finds themselves stranded in a world ravaged by the intense radioactive fallout caused by the mishandling of Obamium. However, instead of the cool nuclear apocalypse where Elvis Presley gives us his cyborg dog, instead we get bootleg Borderlands characters and angry geometry. This online role-playing game is also quite possibly massively multiplayer. Not like I would know, because the last time there were more than 10 players in one spot, the servers died.
Really? Does this happen? I never had that happen. Oh my god.
So join me on a brief adventure as I tell you about the zany world of Tower of Fantasy, and why you should never play this game.
Alright, that's a good way to start it. Jesus. The worst game I can't stop playing.
If Genshin Impact is the game that opened the gates to gacha hell, then Tower of Fantasy is the one that handed me my passport and congratulated me on my citizenship.
Oh yeah, like Genshin Impact was the, that was the game that really got gacha to be popular in the West, I think. Genshin Impact was like the Trojan horse. It came in there and people finally started playing. It was the gateway drug. Yes, it was the Trojan horse.
¿Quieres?
For those of you who don't know what a gacha game is, imagine a casino, except the only prizes are anime JPEGs.
Woo! Yeah, baby!
I'm not exaggerating when I say that this is...
Normal people. Gacha games are designed to psychologically manipulate people into spending as much money possible. Gacha games are bad and therefore should not be recommended. Gacha apologists. Well, it's no different from Wupak that nobody's wanting to spend money and we're not free to play, so it's fine. Oh my god.
The most predatory business model in the entire gaming industry, and therefore playing these games are my guilty pleasure and personal vice. I'm going to be honest with you. This game could be considered by many metrics not good. Its elemental system is laughably simplistic. The character design is at times generic or forgettable.
Wait, did they make her boobs bigger? I think they did. Yeah, guys, I'm pretty sure they did. Like, I remember, yeah, she got buffed, yeah. I think, yeah.
The story is mediocre at best and pure nonsense at worst.
Who runs like that?
The music is generally boilerplate. The boss fights are miserable. And yet for...
Do you guys remember this boss fight? So if anybody played this game, do you remember this boss fight about how he would go underground and then he would just come up at random times and instantly kill you? Like, just such a piece of shit.
Miserable. And yet for some reason, I keep playing it. And I'm hoping that by the end of this video, I'll finally understand why. I will be getting into spoilers, but don't worry, you're not missing out because...
Spoilers, but it doesn't matter.
Tower Fantasy innovates by being the first game to tell its most important lore and story details exclusively through loading screen tips. In fact, the story is so bad that developers let you skip all dialogue and cutscenes. You may notice that the opening cutscene for this game seems like a complete rip-off of Genshin. That's because it is. Here you select between...
Well, there's a lot of things that are a complete rip-off of Genshin with this game. And by the way, Emeru and Tectone got sponsored. You know what? I think Mizkif got sponsored to play Tower of Fantasy. I'm so mad. I played this game for real. I didn't get sponsored. Seer got sponsored. Are you fucking kidding me? Seer? Soda got sponsored. This is fucking ridiculous. Everybody got sponsored except me. And I was the only person that actually played it. I played it for free. No, I didn't play it for free. I spent like $2,000 on the game. That's the worst part. I paid for them to play the game. I paid for their sponsorship.
Two of the worst character designs I've ever seen in a gacha game. But that's okay, because in about 5 minutes you'll get into the character creator and we'll be able to choose literally anything else. It wouldn't surprise...
The character creator was okay, but I was disappointed at the amount of hair options for male characters.
Surprise me in the slightest if the design is bad on purpose to get you to interact with the character creator.
Yeah.
Since you're given total freedom to make whatever character you want, that means there are no wrong choices, right? Trick question. The correct answer is the small female character model. No matter what option you choose, your character will shrink down and use the same animations as the small female character model in cutscenes. Sorry bro, it's a canon event. So after you choose your gender, your character gets wrecked and someone shows up only to wipe your memory for literally no reason and then leave you for dead.
Oh, that's never happened before.
This is basically never followed up on, nor does it really seem to be
There we go. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Where Tower Fantasy lacks in story, its environments make up for in immaculate vibes. Version 2.0 introduced Vera, a desert region under threat from extra-dimensional abominations only known as gray space entities. The desert itself, while nothing terribly special on its own, is a noticeable step up in quality from the starter region of Hesperia.
I think even the starter region looked nice. Like, the game looked fine. I mean, does it look as vibrant and good as Genshin? No. But I'd say it's a solid 8. Solid 8, maybe 8.59. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. However, where Tower Fantasy really starts to shine is when it turns into Cyberpunk 3077.
Oh yeah, that's the game that I said I was going to play.
Wake up, samurai.
Yeah.
We've got gacha to roll. You see, in Vera, 98% of the population live inside of the Rhombus. This Evangelion Ramiel-looking dingus is an entire city crammed full of minigames and virtual attractions. It's even got a functioning nightclub. What is the dog doing? The first part of the city is...
like, I think that's really cool. Like, this is awesome.
Somewhat Chinese, and the second half is very Chinese. It almost makes me wish a dystopian megacity in mainland China was real. At first, it struck me as a little odd that a city that is under constant attack was so jam-packed with entertainment venues and luxury apartments. But then it occurred to me that the entire city is basically one giant COVID lockdown bubble.
Is that true?
The next area is the Confounding Abyss, and it's where I personally felt that Tower Fantasy's environmental design was starting to become decent.
Okay.
The harsh alien landscapes...
I mean, you know, it is what it is, right?
Serving as the natural habitat of eldritch horrors really sold me on this game being more than just a generic anime MMO. It is also one of the few parts of the game that has a story that is, dare I say it, actually kind of good.
Wow.
It centers around one of the only characters in this game to have interesting writing, Dr. Rubilia, my beloved. The verticality and disconnected terrain really leverage...
Yeah, like, I think this looks really cool, man. Straight up, like, I do. I really think this looks cool. Am I crazy? Does it? Yeah. I think this looks awesome.
This game's high mobility, which is something I'll touch on later. Next is a toxic swamp biome. This area was basically just filler added to serve as build-up for the next area. Speaking of which, down through the tunnel we gain access to the Grand Sea, and with it, the ability to dive and freely swim underwater.
Oh, so Genshin stole this from Tower of Fantasy. That's crazy. Wow, because didn't Genshin do something just like this?
The underwater city of Inars is absolutely stunning.
Look at
even
that.
if the swimming mechanics are clunky, the entire region is anything but forgettable. I'd also like to take the time to point out that this entire map is completely seamless between all 3 of its layers, and it was released on the global version of this game before...
I mean, this looks really nice, guys. I'm gonna be honest. It's really nice.
Genshin Impact even announced that Fontaine would have underwater exploration. The latest expansion to the game added Domain 9, an alternate dimension full of floating islands in an endless sky. Here, the traditional Chinese design elements are worn on its sleeve, and it is positively gorgeous. However, I can't help be underwhelmed by its gameplay, the reasons for which I can't explain unless we get into...
Okay.
Earlier I mentioned that Tower of Fantasy has a high level of player mobility. This cannot be overstated. In your base movement alone, you have the ability to scale walls a la Breath of the Wild, a double jump, and 3 dodges that are separate from your stamina. The game's tutorial gives you a jetpack, which is basically the paraglider, but you can use it to boost upward.
Yeah, I quit the game whenever this area came out. This one here. Actually, I think it was one area after this, and then I quit.
Boost upward. Oh, and by the way, upgrading the jetpack 1 time removes its stamina consumption.
Yep.
So you can glide almost indefinitely. You can chain the jetpack with your dodges to cover huge horizontal distances as well. While you can swim, there's no need to, because the game also gives you a hoverboard that has no cooldown while you're on the water.
Yeah, this stuff is really cool. Like, the exploration stuff is great. I liked it a lot.
Shortly after that, you get a motorcycle, and not too much longer after that, you can kill a world boss that gives you the resources to unlock a grappling hook. This isn't even mentioning the characters that have additional movement mechanics like Lan's Umbrella or Rubilia's Wing Boost. All of this means that compared to Genshin Impact, you may as well be a pilot from Titanfall 2. This is both incredibly fun, and also a double-edged sword. It's fun in that you can rush across the map at high velocity and combo the various mobility options to rapidly overcome virtually any obstacle. However, this has the side effect of making the exploration trivial and at times, extremely boring. A large amount of it is just go to location and grab the thing. This isn't to...
No, that's not a large amount of it. That's the entire thing. Yeah, that's the entire... Like, you have to go there, and there's a box, and then you open the box, and you get the thing. Okay, you did that? Okay, guess what? Now there's another box.
Say that Genshin's exploration isn't also like this at times. However, in Genshin, you can tell the developers have designed the map using these rewards as breadcrumbs to guide you throughout the terrain and constantly recontextualize the various puzzles scattered throughout the map. However, in Tower of Fantasy, because you can zip around like a fly on Adderall, there is basically no difficulty to the vast majority of exploration puzzles, making them little more than a glorified checklist. A lot of the other puzzles just boil down.
There were some of these that were really annoying. Like, there were a couple of them that one of these took me like 10 minutes to do. And I had to I mean, this game is really buggy, right? So, yeah.
Down to use tool X on thing Y.
That's right. It goes in the square hole.
Yes.
The underwater exploration in Inars, while it does reuse a lot of the same exploration puzzles, at least has the novelty of the swimming mechanics to make up for it.
Oh yeah.
The vast majority of Domain 9, however, is just gathering various orbs scattered throughout the map.
No.
That's it. Oh, shit. You gotta get all of those? I get to work.
And the remainder is either opening treasure chests or solving laughably simple puzzles. Wow! It's for this reason why I'm disappointed in Domain 9, because it doesn't really do anything radically different from the rest of the game, like how Inars was such a huge departure from anything else we've seen in the game. I'm going to be real with you though, the exploration is not the reason why I keep coming back to this game. For that, we need to examine... By far, Tower of Fantasy's strongest suit is its combat. The basic gameplay loop is simple, but immensely satisfying. You can equip...
Let's see, is the combat in Tower of Fantasy good? I feel like it kind of is, but there are some badly designed bosses. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty good. It feels like shit, really? Dude, I thought it was fine, man. Maybe I'm crazy or stupid or dumb, but yeah, I thought it was fine.
Up to 3 weapons, each of which have a skill that you can use in addition to its attack combos. Attacking with your weapon charges your offhand weapons, and once they finish charging, you fire off their ultimate by swapping to that weapon. This can range from a massive AoE attack to a team-wide healing pulse.
I want to also keep in mind here, this is the Bygone Phantasm. I was in the top 3 on my entire server for the highest clear for the Bygone Phantasm, which is like an endless like loop, like you just do it over and over and over until you can't do it anymore. I was in the top 3 on the entire server, and I just remind you, I didn't get sponsored. Yeah, I didn't get sponsored. Isn't that crazy?
Can range from a massive AoE attack to a team-wide healing pulse. Alongside this, you can equip 2 different relics, which are pieces of equipment with their own abilities you can trigger in combat.
Yeah.
These can range from calling in a mech suit to auxiliary guns,
I never did that one.
and even Zhongli's pillar from Genshin Impact. Except you fire it out of a gun. Of course, the main ones you'll wind up using are the ones that just give your team a DPS buff, but at least there are a bunch of fun options to mess around with. Even though the combat often boils down to repeating the same optimized combo loop you figured out weeks ago, its fast-paced nature and constant weapon swapping still manages to get my dopamine receptors to fire off like the chimpanzee that I am.
I also think like the so if you do a perfect dodge, you like stop time in like the in like where you're at. I actually think that's really cool.
Even if it lacks the depth of Genshin's elemental system, or the tight team coordination of Final Fantasy XIV, if the combat wasn't fun, there's no way I would have stuck around for as long as I have.
Yeah, I think the combat was good.
The second reason is, if there is one thing Tower Fantasy has managed to consistently nail over the past 6 months, it's their quality of life updates, whether it's additional teleport waypoints to frequently visited locations, or an overhaul of the raid system to allow for easier matchmaking. I cannot...
Do you guys remember whenever I tried to make a party for something and I literally couldn't get a single person to join my party? Like, it was actually the worst experience of my life. Like, the social system and like the chat in the game whenever I played was so bad, it was funny.
Overstate just how much of a difference these changes have made for the overall game experience. Quick Battle, my beloved. It maintains confidence that the game will only continue to improve, even if it can be 2 steps forward, 1 step back at times. Compared to the highly polished experience Genshin provides, Tower Fantasy is really janky, but consider that unlike Genshin, TOF lets you play the game at a frame rate higher than 60, and also...
Wait, you have to play Genshin at 60 FPS? What? Oh my god, why?
Lets you pet the dog. There's undoubtedly still a lot of jank in this game, but for the most part, it's the kind that is endearing rather than frustrating or game-breaking. Whether it's wonky cutscene animations or hilarious physics glitches, you're sure to encounter at least a few bugs while playing this game.
Yeah,
although
I've had that
now,
happen.
some of my favorites in the past year include the old grapple hook slingshot bug, and the time you could...
Oh, we did that in Halo 2. Remember that? You do that with the energy sword and then canceling it? Holy fuck. Dude, I forgot all about that. That one was so fun. Yeah. And you would have people like kneel down. Yeah. Oh, fuck.
She's a world boss by yoinking her off of a cliff.
What?
Oh, there she goes. Oh, no way. Is not just the way that they've improved the quality of life over the previous versions of the game, but also over its competition, where Tower Fantasy really hits hard. I lightly touched on it earlier, but one of the flagship features of this game is its character customization. The character creator is so robust that players use it to do in-game cosplay, from facial...
Yeah, but you can't really do that because there's like, so... no, bro, because like there's a lot of like hairstyles. For example, okay, so let me see if I can pull this up. I'll give you guys an example because I this happened and I was fucking pissed. Maybe I might not be able to find it. Well, anyway, there's the S3, that guy King. The hairstyle, customization is great for girls, which makes sense, right? Because like most of the people that play this game, well, I wouldn't say they're girls, but they play as girls.
Markings, accessories, and
the male
even dyeing their
customization
clothing.
sucks.
There's an ever-expanding pool of cosmetics that can be used to make the perfect drip for your character. In addition, Tower Fantasy does an excellent job of separating gameplay and cosmetics. On that topic, things get a little more complicated because we first need to discuss
how the gacha is different.
In this
Guys, it's not different.
game, you
It's the same.
technically don't pull for the characters. You pull for their weapon instead. However, once you unlock their weapon, you unlock that character as a skin. This means
Yeah.
that you can have
So
the
you pull for the
gameplay of a
character.
character without having to take on their appearance. This is particularly appealing for people who want to use a character's kit without having to become an anime twink. You
That's exactly right. Abso-fucking-lutely.
can use any character's skin with any weapon. Or you could not use their skin at all and
That's
choose to
right.
continue playing your custom character. This freedom with your character's
Yeah, I
appearance
like that a
goes a
lot.
long way. Characters you've unlocked are more than just skins though. Once you simp enough for them using gift items, they'll start DMing you. These messages are put in the same
Oh, bro, I forgot all about this shit, man. Oh my god, I forgot about this.
Nah, this really happens.
section where
It's real.
DMs from actual other
Nah, this
players
shit's real.
show up. It would be funny if it weren't also kinda sad.
Yeah.
While this feature is executed better in Honkai Star Rail, Tower Fantasy did do it first. Another nice feature is that if you pull 4 copies of a character, you unlock an alternate skin for that character and their weapon.
Yep.
For those of you who are familiar with Genshin, this means that the alt skin unlocks at C3. While this does add additional pressure to pull on banners, overall I'd say that it's a net positive.
Well, it of course gives you more pressure to spend money because that's what the game is built around. The entire existence of the game, it's like a funnel to spending money. Now, you can, one thing that's different with this is that you can buy things, like you can buy upgrades for the weapons on the store.
Although I am just a little biased. Part of this is because of how the pity system in the in-game shop works. In Tower Fantasy, you always get a 50-50 pity on your 80th pull on a banner,
Yeah.
compared to Genshin's variable pity capped off at 90 rolls. Pity in Tower Fantasy is always 50-50, but each pull also gives you a token,
Yeah, so you can buy these. That's what I did.
and 120 tokens allow you to buy a copy of the featured character from the shop. This means that the hard guarantee for a character's is 110 pulls, compared to Genshin's 180. On top of this, if the character you pulled is on the standard banner, you can buy an extra copy of them from the shop at any time,
Yep.
since the dailies for this
And it
game
resets like every week or something, so you can just do it a bunch of times.
give you one
Is
standard
it actually possible to enjoy this free to play? Okay. You have to understand something. Can you play this free to play? Can you eat dog shit? Like, is it possible for you to eat dog shit? Could you do it? You could eat dog shit, right? It would be awful. You'd hate the taste. You'd probably throw up. But you could eat dog shit. There it is. Yes, you can enjoy this game free to play.
pull per day, you can slowly upgrade all of your standard characters over time.
Yep.
Meaning if you stay dedicated, you can eventually get all of them maxed
Dedicated, diligent farmer only to be outspent by a whale in 3 days and then left in the fucking dust.
down. I cannot stress how much I wish this system was in Genshin. However, this does come at a cost.
Uh-oh.
One thing I discovered very early on into playing this game was the stark power difference between the different tiers of weapons. The SR characters in this game, equivalent to Genshin's 4 stars, are basically worthless compared to the
Well, they're worthless, pathetic, bad, stupid, and ugly. All the hot characters are the expensive ones, and the ugly characters are the cheap ones. That's just how it is.
SSRs. And on top of that, despite the fact that newer characters in Global are usually quite heavily nerfed compared to the Chinese version of the game, all of the new SSRs wind up outclassing the previous ones.
There it is.
That's not to say the standard SSRs are bad, so much as the limited SSRs are just that much better. Sure, they occasionally move older limited SSRs to the standard banner, and they have buffed older SSRs, but the newer characters almost always wind up power creeping the old ones.
Yep.
This makes the game essentially pay to win, and while in practice...
Oh, that's what makes it pay to win. Oh.
You can still experience basically everything this game has to offer as a free-to-play. You will always be outperformed by people who spend money on the game to a rather
Well, no shit.
absurd degree.
So this is how bad it is. So I wanted to level in Tower of Fantasy and keep leveling and keep my character at max level because they would increase the max level like every week or something. So there was like this one version of the game that you could play, and it would just continuously, it was like 5 different levels, and you could just do it over and over and over, and it would just give you a little bit more experience every single time. And so I would tab between each game, and I would play Tower of Fantasy and level my character up while I was playing another game actually, right? And I would turn on auto battle, because this game has autoplay for you. And my Frontier Crash, it was something like that. And my auto battle autoplay, because they have a built-in damage meter for the game. Bro, I was clearing the entire thing, and I saw these like free-to-play players that are like jumping around, like, ooh, doo, doo, doo. Meanwhile, bro, I'm just sitting there getting hit by stuff. It's not even moving my health bar. And like, I'm killing everything. Like, I'm doing way more damage. I'm carrying the group. I'm not even in the room. Yeah, I'm not even there. Like, I'm not even playing the game right now. I'm just relaxed.
May be significantly cheaper to max out a limited character in Tower of Fantasy compared to Genshin, but that doesn't matter when you're forced to continually max out new characters in order to keep up with other players. In addition to the power creep pressuring you into spending more on the game, there are a number of other additional psychological...
Yeah, so that's right, guys. Again, so let's just count for a second here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 currencies are on this. Oh, sorry, 9, 10. Oh, sorry, 9. 9, because these are already there. Yeah, 9 currencies are on the screen right now. That's right.
Additional psychological tricks the game has that makes it even worse than Genshin.
Oh, yeah.
Dark patterns are much more obviously integrated into the game's UI and overall design, making it much more manipulative and predatory.
Yeah, I never saw any dark patterns.
This game is built from the ground up for multiplayer.
Actually, this is a really funny thing. So what you have to understand about the chat system in this game is what they did in order to have a chat system for this game is they went back, they got a time machine, and they went back to 2001, and they actually took the source code from the Neopets website, and they used the Neopets chat from 2001 for Tower of Fantasy's chat right now. I was surprised too whenever I heard it, but it's a fantasy sci-fi game, so I guess it makes sense.
Player. No! Got him. There are world bosses, instant...
And again, I want to say also... No! The only fat person in the game is an enemy. There it is.
Got him. There are world bosses, instant dungeons, weekly raids, and a bunch of other activities you can do with your friends and your clan.
Oh yeah.
I have to switch. Oh, will it not let me switch?
You even get bonus currency for helping out new or returning players.
Yeah, you do.
Tower Fantasy is the only game where you can type in global chat that you've got blue balls, and that gets people to join your squad. Just don't get too many people fighting the same world boss, or the server will crap itself. While the
By too many, he means 6.
Majority of this game is PvE, there are a few PvP modes. We don't talk about them. However, for some reason,
I was gonna do the PvP because I read the Tower of Fantasy Terms of Service, and nowhere on the Terms of Service did they ever mention that it was against the rules to win trade in PvP. Not once was it ever mentioned that you can't win trade in PvP. So all I was gonna do is just win trade for the entire thing because there's a mount. There's like this, you know the mount like in Mechagon and WoW, where it's like the wheel and you're inside the wheel and you're driving? There's a mount like that you get from PvP, and I was gonna like cheat to get the mount, but I just ended up not doing it. You read it all? Yeah, it took me like 10 minutes. It's not a big deal. Yeah, the Grand Marshal mount, yeah.
Dota thinks that forcing PvP minigames on people for their events is a good idea. This means that...
Yep.
In complete opposition to Genshin, Tower Fantasy's time-limited events are a complete joke. In order to get the rewards, you'll often have to subject yourself to frustrating minigames, or queue your character through hours of AFK farming. While some of these aren't inherently unfun, the amount of times you have to run them and the gap in rewards between the winners and the losers makes them draining at best. Some of these minigames also gain nothing by being PvP, and I'd even argue it actively detracts from the experience for a number of them. It's one of the few times I've been glad that content has been temporary, which I think says a lot.
So there was one PvP, like this is before I quit the game, and there's a character that's able to make an ice wall, right? I think her name was like Meryl. And what I did is it was a race, and I got ahead of everybody else, and I used her ult to make an ice wall. And nobody could get around the wall. And I just got first place, and it was about like 4 seconds. Bro, I blew everybody the fuck out. It was one of the best times ever. I was so happy doing that.
Babe, it's 4 p.m. Time for another Fall Guys ripoff. At least the rewards are generally worth pursuing, and in that aspect, TOF is quite generous. According to the stats page that was available during the game's 6-month anniversary, I had received the equivalent of 733 event pulls for free.
Wow.
Of course, you do have to keep in mind that these free pulls don't mean...
I like how they have the actual machine there, just in case you're under any fucking... you're under any delusion of like, what are you doing right now? You're playing a gacha machine. It literally has it right there.
Pulls don't mean nearly as much as the free pulls Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail give out due to power creep. What fascinates me is that Tower Fantasy as a game is carried almost completely by excelling in the few areas that Genshin comes up lacking, namely the character customization and proper multiplayer content.
Yeah, I like
certainly
that.
Didn't anticipate sinking over 400 hours into this game, but since it's relatively easy to keep up with new content, I find that I never really want to fully drop out from playing it.
Wow.
It's times like these that I take a step back and reflect on how I got to this point.
Yeah,
the massive player dog piles, the high mobility, the squads of players zipping around on motorcycles and wing gliders. Some faint memories start coming back to me. The year is 2014.
What?
I sat down in front of the family computer after a long day at high school. I load up Skype, I start up Steam, and then my friends and I all start playing a little game called Firefall, a now long-dead sci-fi MMO that died all too soon. The high mobility, the mounts, the massive fights that brought together a couple dozen players as we fought bosses, pushed back enemy invasions, or just mined for resources. I realized Tower Fantasy accidentally managed to hit a forgotten vein of nostalgia in me. An itch I didn't even know I had got scratched by this game. And in a warped, corrupted way, this game is the closest thing I have to a spiritual successor. Maybe in a different timeline, Firefall managed to succeed and have a dedicated player base keeping it up and running. Perhaps in that version of events, I could have ignored Tower Fantasy and kept dropping thumpers and fighting melding tornadoes. I guess, having realized this, I now finally know why Tower Fantasy is the worst game I can't stop playing.
Jesus Christ. Let's see how many people can't stop playing the game. We'll go over here. Tower of Fantasy. $2,000 people. Now, obviously, it has its own launcher and...
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for
just a minute. Yeah, dead game. Well, it had most people play it on like their launcher, right? Nobody plays it on Steam though. Yeah. like overall the game does seem like it's going down. Because like if you look at the number and you see the number, like right now it's at 2,000, and like 2,000 is a bad number. Because before it's at 3,000 and 4,000, before it was at 5,000, and now it's at 2,000, which is worse than 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000, right? So that's kind of, you know, a little problematic there. I'm just saying. No, I think this video was pretty fair. I'm gonna be honest. People wanted me to watch this because I had played the game in the past. I think this is a pretty good video. This is a pretty good video. It was pretty fair. Overall, like, he talked about some of the positives, the negatives, etc. I think it was very, very fair. This is a great video. I actually really like this a lot. This guy's only got 2K subs. Make sure to give him a sub if you liked it.